hardships, bumps in the road in our spiritual journey. And Paul was very open about the difficulties he faced in his life. I think sometimes we try to hide the difficulties we're facing. We don't want anybody else to know about them. We don't want everybody to know our business. So we're going to hide the trials and the difficulties. And we do it so many times at the expense of being around people who can be the encouragement that we need. You know, Paul struggled with rejection. He struggled with physical infirmities. He struggled with threats to his well-being. And in spite of all those difficulties, he tells us that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. Mm-hmm. Instead of allowing hardships and pain to defeat him, he remained disciplined because he knew his purpose in life was greater than he was. That's something we all need to think about, how our purpose in life is greater than who we are as a person. Paul went on to say, I have finished the race. What does that say to me? It says he lived his life with direction. Paul followed the course that God had set out for him. From the very moment that Jesus appeared to him on the road to Damascus, Paul followed and did what the Lord asked him to do. Good times, bad times, happy circumstances, bad circumstances. In the midst of pain and suffering, Paul followed the way of the Lord. Now his journey's almost over, and he looks back over his life, and he tells us it wasn't easy. It was often hard, and you know, sometimes I wondered if I was going to make it, but now, looking back, I can see that Jesus led me all the way. He pulled me through things that you would never believe, and he will do the same for you and me. For Paul, the finish line was already in sight. He could look back over his life and he could understand that he had run a pretty good race. How do we finish a race? By putting one foot in front of the other. Nobody stays in the starting blocks and finishes the race. You know, you're running a marathon, they talk about hitting that wall, but you still keep just putting one foot in front of the other, and eventually you will get to the finish line. But you know, along the way, we're going to stumble, we're going to fall, we're going to have to sit down and take a water break, we're going to have to stop and get the rocks out of our shoes, but then we get back up and we keep putting that one foot in front of the other. Like Paul, we just move forward by the grace of God. One step at a time, one day at a time. Folks, these days we're living in right now, these are the days of our struggle. These are the days of our races. These are the days when we're hitting the wall. These are the days of hardship. But you know what's on the other side of the finish line? A day of rest. A day of rest. When we finally reach that finish line, we have a day of rest. Finally, we saw that Paul lived a good life, sound life, because he proudly proclaims at the end, I have remained faithful. From my perspective, that simply means that he refused to compromise the truth. He didn't water it down, and he even warned all the people who studied under him, beware, because some people just want mother's milk. They don't ever want to get the solid food. Beware. There are people who just want you to tell things that tickle their ears. They just want you to tell them the good stuff. They don't want to hear the hard stuff. When others turned away, Paul kept his eyes on the prize. When the whole world was against him, Paul didn't pay him any attention. He just kept doing what God had told him to do. He didn't back down. He didn't compromise. And unfortunately for him, but fortunate for us, he did not preach what the people wanted to hear. He didn't give in to discouragement because he truly believed that everything that happened to him was for his good and God's glory. Even the chains of a Roman jail could not destroy his faith. It couldn't shatter his confidence in God. When we get out there in that world every day, we're going to face people who, for whatever reason, are going to try to dissuade us from following what we know is true. There are going to be days in our lives where we just want to throw the towel in and go with the crowd. But Paul, the encourager, tells us to remain faithful in spite of those people. Don't give in to the naysayers. Don't give in to those people who say you can't do it. So if we follow Paul's example and we live a disciplined life and a directional life and a faithful life, what's in store for us at the finish line? He tells us. He tells us that our promise is a guaranteed reward. You know, I think too many of us have been burned by guarantees because we didn't read the small print at the bottom of the contract. Friends, there's no small print at the bottom of this contract. That guarantee is reward. We are promised, just like Paul, a crown of righteousness. And we can wear that crown of righteousness proudly when we stand before the judge. And all he's going to see is that robe and crown of righteousness. Not the times we stumbled and fell. Not the times that we wanted to give up. Not the times that we messed up. All he's going to see is that crown of righteousness on our heads. In Jesus' own words, that crown of righteousness is stored and laid up for us in heaven. Every one of us has that crown with our name on it. It's a personal reward that we're going to receive from the Lord himself. He's not going to send it to us in the mail. He's not going to leave it on the desk for us to pick up on our way out. He is going to put it on our heads with his own two hands. That crown of righteousness is what is ahead for you and me if we will faithfully serve Jesus Christ today. I'm here this morning to offer all of us encouragement as children of God and as fellow racers in a spiritual journey. The Lord's not going to forget the suffering that we've gone through. He's not going to forget the struggles that we've been through. He's not going to forget how hard the fight has been for us. I know because I've experienced there are days where you just want to quit. Just want to throw in the towel and give up. But Jesus knows what it takes for us to keep on going. The Lord himself is going to put that crown on our heads. That should keep our eyes focused on that prize. And as we struggle in this race that we call life, this is what Paul is encouraging us by saying. Keep on fighting, keep on running, keep on believing. Our struggles aren't going to last forever. This long road that we're on right now eventually comes to an end. This old world full of dangers and toils and snares, as the hymn writer puts it, can't last forever. One of the most important and greatest duties of a community of faith is to encourage one another to finish the race. We're called as brothers and sisters in Christ to encourage each other to hold on to our faith, to keep believing, to stay strong. It's also our job to say there is a finish line out there. There's a finish line out there somewhere with all of our names on it. And brothers and sisters, it can be closer than we realize. But by the grace of God, let's finish strong for Jesus. Just remember, finishing well doesn't happen by accident. when we use our spiritual eyes and focus on our finish and finishing well, we will have no regrets.